we are here today, and I wanted to invite Sim because I think she has a very interesting story. She basically went through the whole process of working as a paralegal, working in law firms with three. She had three vacation schemes and three training contract offers eventually. So I thought she would be a great example for all of us, and it would be great to have an insight into her story. Sim, I'll leave you introducing yourself, and we'll get to the questions later.
Sounds good. So I am a future trainee at Womble Dickinson. It's a UK top 20 law firm. I am due to start there in March 2021. I currently run my own mentoring scheme on Instagram called Sims Legal Mentoring, and a YouTube channel called Sims Legal Mentoring as well. From a young age, I knew I wanted to study law, but I didn't really understand the challenge that was involved in becoming a solicitor. For me, essentially, I wanted to become a solicitor because I studied law. I didn't really kind of think of other career perspectives. And I didn't kind of judge the competition involved. I was involved in a mix of kind of legal and non-legal experiences, which I'm sure we'll talk about for the rest of the podcast. And essentially, after I'd graduated from university, I did a VAC scheme for 3 weeks, at PwC Legal. I then did a 2-week accounting stint at EY. Although I loved the people there, the job was just not for me. I hated accounting with a passion. And then I did 2 paralegal jobs, 2 further vacation schemes, and ultimately had 3 training contracts overall. I do think the training contract process was kind of the first challenge I'd ever received in my life, because you work hard for the grades that you want, but the training contract process was the one where I felt like there was so much uncertainty about whether I'd get it or not. So definitely happy to have seen the light at the end of the tunnel in that respect.
It's incredible, really. But starting from the beginning, I was wondering, what so you study law, and then you wanted to become a solicitor and work in commercial law. Did that was that clear since the beginning, or did you have in mind other routes, or wanted to try something else maybe?
So when I was at school, I actually took part in some high street solicitor law firm work, and I just realized it was too personal. So then I just realized that I had to go into that commercial law route. And when I'd finished school and was about to start uni, I did a week's work experience in Pinsent Masons as a part of their school leavers program. And that kind of gave me my first insight into how to work into London. I loved it. Just, there is a little bit of glamour involved when you're working in London. I just knew that I wanted to be a part of that. And during university, I think my enthusiasm in that respect definitely waned. For example, I was invited to attend a Simmons & Simmons open day, but I didn't go because I didn't recognize the importance of attending open days. I just thought, I can't really be asked to go. I thought they were just going to kind of show us around the firm, but I didn't think they're going to tell us kind of insider tips, for example. And I think when I'd graduated university, therefore, because I didn't utilize networking effectively, I actually didn't know what kind of firm I wanted to apply for, even though I knew I wanted to go to the commercial side. I'd actually graduated and realized that I'd literally just done my degree, had my friends, and that was it. And I had some experiences here and there, but I wish I'd kind of utilized networking more in that respect.
I think it's very interesting, especially on that point that you mentioned, that you did not attend an open day when you received an invitation. And I think many students, many graduates maybe realized a bit later that these small things make a difference eventually when added up.
They do, for sure.
Yeah, right. So you started engaging with law firms quite early, let's say, in your academic experience, and Sorry, it was a question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I thought that was a statement. So I did engage with them quite early on in terms of with Pinsent Masons when I was a school leaver.
Yeah.
But it was during university, I think that enthusiasm did go a little bit. And a lot of my friends were accounting students or economic students. And that's when I came across the non-legal experience of me going to EY, because all my friends were applying. So I thought, why not apply as well?
Yeah.
So I think I kind of went into just exploring the more so like the corporate world rather than a particular law firm as such. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's what law firms like to see in your experience, in your background. I guess, I suppose, that you experience the corporate world generally, having various experiences, not only in the legal field. Is that correct? That yeah, maybe for example, you've tried PwC, so it's accounting or other experiences. So would you say that's something they look for in candidates? Or
Absolutely. So I think my experiences at EY, even though I did a non-legal tax internship, when I applied for my back scheme at PwC, I remember in my final interview before that back scheme, they really honed in on the fact that I'd worked for EY. I'd essentially worked for their competitor, and they were just really intrigued about how I'd experienced that, and how that made me decide that I wanted to work for them in the future with a back scheme and then essentially a training contract. And I do really much think that having EY on my CV and in my application helped me with gaining further legal work experience. And it just goes to show that transferable skills that you gain from non-legal experiences are so important when it comes to future applications.
Yes. And in terms of transferable skills, for example, what did you learn in these companies? What would you say is classifies as such?
So at EY, what I'd learned was one of the things that I did was there was a merger, and they made me draw up a flowchart of the parent and subsidiary companies, which I found really interesting. And also they made me analyze tax computations, kind of a lot of financial stuff. And how it really helped me with my legal applications was I was able to talk about a key commercial awareness issue of how the legal market is becoming increasingly saturated with big four firms coming in and alternative business structures coming in and setting up their own legal branches. So it was really nice in terms of commercial awareness point of view of seeing how these firms operated in terms of saturating the legal market firsthand rather than reading about it. And also in terms of drawing up the flowcharts between the parent and the subsidiaries, I think that was very useful in helping my understanding of just general mergers and acquisitions law, which was, it was very useful for me to learn that. And also during my non-legal experience at EY, I actually networked my way into sitting into the employment law seat for 3 days, which was very kind of them to do. They didn't they could have just said, no, you're in the tax team and you could just stay there. But I think it was very nice of them to, they understood that I was interested in law and exactly. So I was able to experience the EY law area as well within my non-legal scheme. So it is really it is really kind of so they have an EY law branch. And they were all on different floors, and I just found it really interesting how accountants and lawyers work together. And I can see why it's so appealing for clients, because it's essentially a one-stop shop. That client can go to them for all kinds of kind of accounting advice and then legal advice as well. And they have that sense of familiarity there, which is really useful.
So you've had that experience. You had that experience after your vacation scheme. So you first had a vacation scheme and then the PwC experience.
Oh no, the vacation scheme was the PwC experience. It's so confusing.
Sorry.
Honestly, I don't blame you. I get confused by it myself. So it was EY was the internship in my second year, and then in my final year, I'd ended the year with a VAC scheme at PwC. And then the original internship that I did at EY, they offered me a grad job, which I thought I would take on because after my PwC VAC scheme, I was rejected. So after that rejection, I took on the 2-week EY job, didn't like it, and then I became a paralegal.
Oh yeah.
So very much a roller coaster of a journey.
Yeah, but it gave you a quite good insight, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think so much character building as well. I think when I was rejected from my back scheme, I was so bitter for ages. I was so upset.
Yeah.
But when I look back at it, I think it was honestly one of the best things that could have happened, because at that time I wasn't ready to be a trainee. I didn't have the qualities. I was very complacent on that back scheme. I didn't take certain tasks seriously. And now when I look back, when I compare my VAC schemes at PwC to the VAC schemes I did next summer, there was such a big improvement into the transferable skills that I was showing that, you know, they typically expect of a trainee.
Yeah.
And I guess it was no surprise that, you know, I'd learnt from my previous experiences, and then that allowed me to convert those future VAC schemes into training contracts.
Yes. So how would you describe the VAC scheme experience in comparison maybe to paralegal experience? It's a different kind of work. Probably in a VAC scheme you work more as a trainee, and paralegal is yeah.
Yeah, I think with VAC schemes is you have to be on your best behavior for 2 to 3 weeks, and that is actually so kind of exhausting.
Wow.
At the end of every VAC scheme, I had to take kind of the whole weekend off because I'll be so exhausted, just like mentally, physically, emotionally. And during a paralegal work, I think you get more familiar and comfortable in your teams. You know, if you make a mistake, your supervisor will be there to help you out. Whereas on a VAC scheme, you know, if you make a little mistake, it'll be eating in the back of your head for ages, and you just be like, oh my God, I did something wrong. Yeah. I think VAC schemes as well, you know, because you're on your best behavior, you are limited in how familiar you can be with your team as well, because, you know, you are obviously being assessed, whereas as a paralegal, you can obviously be more comfortable with your team, you know, have informal conversations, get to know people more on a personal level rather than on just a simply professional level. So there is that difference there. And I do think also as a paralegal, you can get more, obviously because you're there for a longer time, you can get involved in more detailed work. You can be involved in a transaction from start to finish, whereas as a VAC schemer, you may have joined only for a week, so there's no way you can actually see anything from start to finish. You're only getting a little snapshot from that week. So typical kind of tasks that a VAC schemer usually does is researching tasks. I found that that's a very typical task that I've got on every single VAC scheme that I've done.
And would you say that there's some competition among participants in a vacation scheme, or it's quite relaxed in that sense? Because I guess they select the future trainees also from VAC scheme participants. So. What would you say?
Yeah, for sure. I think for my PwC legal VAC scheme, there was a lot more kind of competition, but in more so the very obvious competition. Like certain people were just there and they weren't as friendly or welcome. I certainly met like some characters on that vacation scheme, but also I made some friends there that I still do talk to, which is crazy because it's, you know, it's been like 2-3 years or maybe 2 years now. And but what I would recommend if you do have VAC scheme, just be friendly and approachable to everyone, because you don't want to be that person who's involved in drama. My next 2 VAC schemes after that were actually, you know, everyone was very chill, very nice. I think obviously in the back of our heads, we had that feeling and we kept it to ourselves of who may get it and who may not. And I think that's very kind of natural human nature, you know, just thinking, oh, you know, I feel like that person's my competition kind of thing. But it wasn't so much that you would let that affect the way you treated that person. I would, you know, I'd always still remain friendly and approachable. Exactly, for sure. And I think one thing as well, people are quite shy to look as if they're keen. But for me personally, when I was on a VAC scheme, it was very important for me to ask questions. I wasn't afraid of looking like the keen bean or the keeno in the group, because, you know, some of these people I was never going to meet again. So it didn't really affect me so much. For me, it was, you know, I'd rather just put my all in and know that I'd left the VAC scheme asking all the questions that I could, taking full advantage of the opportunities there, rather than ending the week and thinking, oh no, I didn't get to ask him that question or this question. I wish I'd done this or that. So I think it's very important to, you know, focus on yourself on the VAC scheme, but also maintain that approachability and stay clear of the drama. You don't want to be involved in the drama.
Yes. Yes, what would you say is a challenge in the application process for obtaining a VAC scheme, for example, without previous paralegal experience or other relevant experience, maybe because you first obtained a VAC scheme and then a paralegal experience. So what do you think made you stand out in that context?
I think with PwC, I think what ultimately did make me stand out was my EY experience, because I had that non-legal experience there. But I think for someone who does not have enough experience, or feel like they don't have enough, what I would really say is making sure that they are very specific in how they refer to the firm in their applications. So making sure that they are lending and using the same values that the firm has and showing that they have those skills. And it doesn't have to be from work experience either. It can be from personal experiences. I remember in an interview once I was asked, tell us about a time you negatively impacted someone. And I've never negatively impacted someone in the workplace. So I couldn't really lend from any kind of work experiences. But what I did talk about was the fact that I'm an elder sister and I'm obviously a role model to my younger brother. And, there could be times where he looks up to things that I do. So I have to kind of make sure that I'm not negatively impacting him.
That's
That's just an example. Yeah, exactly. And I think it just goes to show that if you are struggling to think of work experiences, you can learn from personal experiences as well and talk about that. And ultimately, it can go in your favor because exactly. Keep it simple, keep it relatable, and also it would show you off more as a human and as a person. And I think that's essentially what law firms are looking for on vacation schemes. They're not looking for a robot. In my feedback for my vacation schemes, for one of them, one of my feedback was, we want you because you have banter, because you're funny, we get along with you. And I always make jokes to my mum and dad, like, oh, I got a TC because I'm funny and stuff like that. And they're always like, yeah, no, you're not funny. But it just goes to show that law firms are actually looking for people. And if you are lacking work experiences, you can show your personality across and, use personal experiences as well.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, very interesting because eventually that makes you stand out, probably because you are a person that you can work well with, I suppose. So
I was having banter with one of the partners about, because obviously my parents are from India, so I support the Indian cricket team. He supported the English cricket team, and we were at lunch just having a bit of an argument about which team was better. And it was just really nice to be able to have actual banter when you're on a VAC scheme, and have that level of comfortability and not kind of be so uptight and so professional all the time.
Yes. Yeah, it seems at least from what I heard, that at the interview stage, for example, you get to talk about these things that make you that show your human side, right? That show your friendliness, your ability to stay in a group, probably
Yeah, for sure. And I think it reflects in the questions as well, because you ask questions like, what makes you happy, or what do you do in your free time? And it's just all trying to find out
your personality,
more about you as a person. Exactly.
Yeah, and returning on the point that, for example, many graduates or students don't have enough maybe legal experience or relevant experience. So in that situation, what would you suggest to them? For example, maybe participate in events, of course, law firms events, but other activities, or what would you recommend?
Yeah, I would say, if you are struggling to find legal experience, I'm a big advocate for non-legal experience, if you haven't found out already. So even if there's something that really interests you, like a new society to find, for example, or at university, or something new to join that really interests you. I don't know, it could be something about human rights, for example, or that would be also very useful. Also getting involved in pro bono or charity. I think there's the Citizens Advice Bureau that take on, legal advisors who are volunteers. That can be kind of one route that you can go down as well. I would also say, from my previous experiences, take networking seriously. So if you are struggling to get legal experience, get involved in webinars, virtual networking events, put yourself out there to interact with future trainees of a firm or current trainees of a firm, like even dropping a message on LinkedIn. and having a conversation with someone about why they picked the firm that they wanted to apply for. This all really goes to show that you are giving a lot of detail and providing a lot of kind of insider knowledge to a particular firm.
Would you say that, for example, that experience should be related to the field in which you'd like to practice, for example, I don't know, related to commercial law, or it doesn't necessarily have to be strictly related, like...
I think if it's something that interests you, and say if you found someone who works for, I don't know, Google, for example, and you're just really interested in how they go about their work, I still think that it's very important to go out of your way to find that out, because one thing you realize as a commercial solicitor, you're not stuck in this legal bubble. You're expected to have business acumen. You're expected to think like an accountant, or, you know, like a banker, for example.
Also different fields,
and also, yeah, exactly. And also your clients won't just be legal clients. Your clients could be anyone. The clients could be like big banks or, I don't know, estate agents or anything. So I think building your network with not only commercial lawyers, but also getting to know people in different kind of fields is also very interesting. And I think I'm very lucky in that sense, because I've got friends who are in completely different fields. You know, one of my best friends is a graphic designer. One of my other friends is a accountant, and it just goes to show we always learn new things off each other. And I think in the future those are connections that you definitely want to forge, and you know they would be beneficial to you as well.
And I have a question on the point of establishing a tangible link with a firm. How would you explain that part? Because I think that relates to many applicants, that they don't find a link to the firm, for example, through work experience or through research. Maybe it's sometimes difficult to find a way to relate to them. Probably, maybe networking. Yeah, you can speak to members of the firm or things like that. But is that a strong argument when applying? Or
I think also it's networking is very important. So if you've met someone of a particular firm and you know they've mentioned something that stands out to you, make note of it, and then also explain why it stood out to you, why it was important to you. I think why people struggle with making that tangible link is because people say stuff like, I would love to be part of Latham Watkins, which is a tier 1 firm in corporate M&A, and then they don't actually say why that's important to them. Why is it important that this firm is a tier 1 firm? Do they have a specific interest in corporate M&A? So if I was answering that question, I would say, I took on a corporate M&A elective on the LPC. I really enjoyed this particular aspect of M&A, and I went out of my way to read this article on, I don't know, the mergers and acquisitions. And it's also very interesting to see how with COVID, M&A thingies have decreased, for example. So, you know, you just have to substantiate with detail and find that link. And also, I think in terms of finding that personal link, if you don't have, you know, networking experience with the firm, because this is something that I didn't have enough networking experiences with the firms that I applied to. But when I did my research was very, very detailed. So if I would go on the firm's website, I would look and think, what is the first impression that I'm gaining from this website? And also if the firm had a certain slogan. So for example, Freeths had the slogan called Free Thinking, which for me said that they are looking for trainees who are innovative or thinking on their feet. And then I myself would make that tangible link to me also being innovative and thinking on my feet and being a free thinker in that sense. And I think that also goes to show how you can create that link between yourself and the firm. Going on the firm's website, going onto the career section and matching yourself to every single value and every single quality that they're looking for in a trainee. Ultimately, they can't say no to you then, because you are displaying every single quality that they are advertising for. And it's a no-brainer, really. They can't say no to that if you are displaying all of those skills in abundance. It's all about translating your skills into your firm, and that makes sense.
Eventually it's that's very important. And they look at the overall application, right? Like it's also, I mean, it's also about the grades, I suppose, about it's a bit all of these things. So
I think certain firms do put certain emphasis on grades. I know certain firms don't, but I think it's very kind of important to research how important that firm puts in into their grades, because there's no point applying if, you know, the firm will definitely not take you on, which is a shame. It shouldn't it shouldn't be like that, because grades shouldn't define you.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
for certain firms, that's just the way it is.
I mean, several firms have minimum requirements, but would you say in that situation the mitigating circumstances section is relevant, or shouldn't you try at all? Because it's like, sometimes you wonder.
I think the mitigating circumstances section is very important. I had one to write for my first year of university.
Okay.
And I think for me, from my personal perspective, it was very, very useful to provide the firm a whole rounded image of me as they could. So if they're looking at my first year grades and thinking, oh, what went wrong there, at least the mitigating circumstances answers that question for them. And of course, certain people have mitigating circumstances that they're not ready to talk about and they're not ready to kind of reveal, and that's perfectly okay.
Yeah.
But I think for me, when someone asks me, oh, should I mention mitigating circumstances, I always say, if you're comfortable with sharing it and you feel comfortable sharing it, then yeah, definitely do it, because you're providing that whole rounded image to that firm and not leaving any stone unturned, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And I think many people are wondering, how did you manage to secure three offers, 3 back schemes and 3 training contracts? Is very impressive. I think.
Yeah, honestly, it was very, very kind of a long-winded process. So for me, I learned by practicing. So I was doing applications over and over and over, but for me, I applied early. So for certain firms, I was applying two months in advance, for example. And I think that definitely helps me in the process. I also think my paralegal experience helped. So for one firm, I was an insolvency paralegal, and I was doing tasks that a trainee would typically do, because my team was, there was a partner and an associate, and then there was me. And, I was exposed to all the tasks that a trainee would do, like writing witness statements, running to court, attending court hearings, writing bankruptcy petitions, for example. And then in my second paralegal job, I was actually involved in legal tech, which is not something that you typically expect from a paralegal, but that was my task. And it just shows how versatile and dynamic a legal career is. So of course I could take my paralegal experiences as well. And really, it was just all about perseverance and resilience. And I think rejections, they are so difficult to deal with at first. I think there was a moment where I was just so uncertain. I just thought, am I just putting all this hard work in for nothing and not gaining anything out of it? But then my dad told me that rejections are redirections, and that really helped in me kind of gaining a perspective of, if one door shuts, another one will open. And you just got to kind of trust the process. If you work hard for what you want, you will get there. And essentially for me, exactly. And for me, it took a lot of practice makes perfect. So albeit, I had the application stage slowly by watching YouTube videos and, reteaching myself how to write applications, I was slowly getting more and more successful with them. But then I would fail at the critical reasoning stage and the dreaded Watson Glaser. And I'd just be like, then I'd have to keep on practicing the Watson Glaser and keep on going over and over and over all the kind of logical deduction, assumptions, all of that. And then I started getting successful with critical reasoning, and then it got to the video interview stage, and I started failing those too. So then I had to kind of practice video interviews and stuff like that. And then you get to assessment centers. Yeah, for sure. And it's honestly, you overcome one hurdle and there's another hurdle there, but you have to just keep jumping. And it's easier said than done. It's very easy for me to sit there and say that, but I think I was looking through, I had a grid written out of all the kind of firms that I'd apply for and where I'd got to. And at every single stage, there was a cross at an assessment center, but then a couple rows later, there'd be a tick under assessment center bit, just to show that, I'd got through that stage. And with practice, further
in the process. Yeah,
exactly.
It's like
and you
motivation.
Get further and further and further. Yeah, for sure. I loved making that grid. I would definitely recommend doing that, just making a grid of all your firms that you've applied for. I did mine handwritten. Like my friend once said to me, why don't you do it on an Excel spreadsheet? And I just thought it's not as satisfying,
as impactful,
like actually doing a tick when you. Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to kind of shade a box green on Excel. I just didn't really find that as, satisfying.
Yeah. And before the live, we were talking about the fact that you prepared, you focused over a year only on that, basically. So you've lived on applications for a year, essentially.
It was a very long year.
Yeah. So for those who are intending to start this process, what would you suggest, like in order of things to do to prepare for this let's say 1 year preparation process? Start researching firms, or I mean in general?
Yeah. So for me, if I go back 2 years to this exact date, I was writing last minute applications, not preparing at all. And what I would do during the summer period is to actually prepare and research your law firms extensively.
Yeah.
I've actually posted a guide on this on my Instagram page for anyone who would find it useful. But my research process was very, very extensive. It would involve looking at multiple sources, but also, you know, going out of my way to approach members of certain firms and asking them about their experiences, and that would give me that insider perspective. So during the summer, I would lay the groundwork, and it's a bit of a down. Obviously, during summer, you want to kind of enjoy yourself. But I think for me, when I just thought, you know, I'm going to sacrifice my summer a little bit for long-term gain for my career.
Yeah, definitely.
And then I think laying the groundwork in terms of researching also helps you to know what kind of firm you want to apply for, what kind of firm is best for you. And also when it comes to researching, I've lost my train of thought, but when it comes to researching, you also, when it comes to September, for example, and you're at university, you can look at the firms that you've researched during summer and then target those firms at law fairs or networking events, for example. And that would really help you as well.
Yeah, so it's basically selecting those law firms that mostly relate to your background or experience or personality.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah,
for sure.
With who? Yeah, with which you can create a tangible link.
Yeah, for sure. And I would also say noting down the deadlines. So I had a whole timetable down of what firm was opening and what, like, when their applications were opening and when their deadlines were. Because this really helped me in ensuring that I applied early. I do think applying early gives you an advantage. Obviously, it's not a proven fact. It's something that's very much on the grapevine. But statistically, I do think that if there are less people in front of you who've applied, grad recruitment are more inclined to give your application more thought, rather than like on the day of the deadline, when there's definitely a huge burst of people just, you know, applying, and grad recruitment just sifting through, because, you know, they're human as well. They don't have, you know, all the time in the world to read every single person's application in detail. So if you're sending yours early, you have a better chance of your application being fully read. Yeah,
that's also a good point. Yeah, some firms assessing applications on a rolling basis, and some firms instead assessing after the deadline. So that's that's an important choice to make, I suppose.
Yeah, I think even for firms with a fixed or rolling deadline, regardless of whether they're fixed or rolling, for me, I always try to ensure that I applied early and not by the deadline date. I know certain firms said, we don't read applications until after the deadline, but for me, it was like, for my own peace of mind, I just wanted to ensure that I kept the momentum with applying early.
Yes, and just out of curiosity, did you opt for any coaching when you were at uni or afterwards to obtain this position, or is that something you would recommend to applicants take coaching?
I personally didn't go through any coaching. I very much self-taught myself by watching YouTube videos. But I actually didn't know coaching existed until I had Instagram this year on my pet legal channel, and I realized, oh my god, there's actual coaches out there. Yeah, I actually didn't realize that, and I just thought, you know, why didn't I know this while I was in the process? And I do think that it's very, very useful to have a coach. I've personally never had one, but, you know, if you can afford one and you need that extra help, then definitely do that. But there are also people who are willing to help out, you know, for free. Like if you have an assessment center coming up, dropping a message to a trainee at the firm as well is as useful, because they may be able to provide advice to you about the assessment center that, you know, a coach may not have inside information about. But also these coaches are very, very kind of experts, qualified. You know, some of them have been legal recruiters in the past. So, you know, definitely, you know, if you can afford it and you want a coach, then definitely do get one.
Yes. And I was wondering, because of this situation, this pandemic and everything that's happened this year, would you say that in the next application process it will be even more competitive, considering that several places have been suspended during this year? Therefore, many applicants have found themselves to probably have
Reapply.
to reapply
Yeah,
next year. Yeah. So
I definitely do think that there will be increased competition. Yeah, I know my firm in particular, they've started their recruitment cycle again for next year.
okay.
So I think, yeah, even their assessment centers and stuff, they've delayed to the next year because they're very much a firm that believes they need to see people in person. And,
Yes.
that's how certain firms run. Certain firms, are carrying on their recruitment process. So for those firms, the competition may just be the same.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is difficult to predict, but I do
Of
think
course.
that, essentially there will be some kind of increased competition
Mm-hmm.
and maybe less supply because, given everything that's happened, law firms may be inclined to take less numbers of trainees.
Yeah.
So, there might be increasing competition and less supply, but,
Yeah.
I'm just speculating here. I'm not particularly sure.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. And perhaps you don't know much about it, but what do you think about the solicitor's qualifying examination that will start next year? Is that something you would recommend as an alternative option to those who are perhaps going through the GDL and then LPC, but instead of that, yeah, perhaps choosing the SQE? What do you think about that? What's your opinion?
I haven't read as much on the SQE yet. I've got a whole list of resources that I've got listed down. I knew I had to get back to it at some point. But in terms of my actual just general opinion, I know that a lot has been going around about the SQE being uncertain. But
Exactly.
I think in recent weeks, there have been some revelations and some guidance on what the SQE is about. And, certain YouTubers like Chrissy Wolf from Law and Border, she's provided some tea on the SQE. And I know that there are other people out there who have provided guidance and research on the SQE as well. I think ultimately people are just scared of change. From my and from my basic opinion on the SQE, I do think it is a more accessible way to become a lawyer. And,
definitely,
anything that's more accessible and promotes inclusion, I'm all for. Clearly, the fact that the SQE has even been kind of announced and is going to be in place just shows that there are certain flaws in the GDL and the LPC that have been going on for, numerous years. And, maybe it is time for change in that respect.
Yes. As in flaws, you mean the accessibility in terms of
financially? I think financial, but also with the SQE, I think there is if you have certain paralegal or pro bono experience, that counts towards your training contract or something.
Exactly.
I think that's very accessible, and I think I think it just goes towards that whole concept of not letting grades define you, because
more practical,
some people have exactly, and I think when I was doing the LPC, I found it very, very practical. I found it a lot more practical than my law degree. I actually enjoyed the LPC a lot more than my law degree because of its practical approach. But I would say that a system that promotes a more practical nature of learning law rather than a theoretical, because studying law at university is nothing like in practice. As a paralegal, my first day, even though I did an insolvency module, the associate said to me, forget everything you learn at university, that will all change. And it was just like, oh, okay.
It's incredible.
And that's exactly.
Perhaps, that's perhaps why we are moving towards, let's say, accepting, for example, STEM students into law. For example, there's a big change in the legal world in this sense. So they will give less importance, let's say, to your legal background, let's say, to the academic part of your legal background, and more to the practical experience, probably.
And I also think, from talking to non-lawyers, like people who don't study law but I mentor, I find that they find it very difficult to actually get in touch with their law societies and be as involved with legal events. They feel like they're very much out of the picture. So hopefully kind of a new system will help them in kind of gaining a better idea of the system involved, the process involved, what's required of you, the experiences that are necessary, the transferable skills that are necessary, and stuff like that. Yeah,
definitely. Very interesting. And what would you say, about your legal mentoring idea page, and what's your your plan with it? What?
Yeah, so Sims Legal basically came about. It was while I was in the process. I think I'd probably received a rejection at some point during this thought, and I just thought that there needs to be something out there that can help
Mm-hmm.
people of my background. And I just realized that there wasn't anything like that. So Sims Legal provides free guidance to people of South Asian backgrounds. And
Yeah.
also, when I'd attended assessment centers, it was all too often that I was the only person there of an ethnic minority background. And it
Yeah.
would just, kind of just make me feel like there needs to be more that needs to be done to increase diversity in the
Yeah.
field. And it is something that I am very much passionate about. So I always said to myself that when I get my training contract, I am going to ensure that this is something that I do.
Mm-hmm.
So when I did get my training contract offers, as I did, I posted it on Twitter, like, "Yay, I got it!" And then a girl messaged me, kind of asking for help, and I helped her from the application stage to her back scheme, and then she got a TC offer from White and Case,
Oh, that's
and it
incredible.
really just
Wow.
it really inspired me. Obviously, this is all her work. I'm not going to take any credit for it at all. She went through the process and stuff, but it
It's
was
good
so
you gave the
fulfilling to
direction. Yeah.
yeah, it was really fulfilling to be able to help someone from start to finish. And I think within that same week, she told me she got the T, but I created Sims Legal like that week. I was so
Mm-hmm.
inspired. And I just felt like I have to. So that's where it came about.
Yeah.
And then 3 months in, I created my first video on Instagram, and I just thought, I actually have a good presence in front of a camera. So I just thought, why not start a YouTube channel as well? So yeah, I kind of just
Yeah.
chucked that in on the side as well.
So yeah, guys, take a look at Sim's YouTube channel as well. It's very
Yes,
interesting.
if you
Very
find me
insightful.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to provide kind of light-hearted banter, but information on the side, because I think it is all about trying to make the legal profession a lot more just accessible
Yeah.
and just fun, really. It doesn't have to be this kind of uptight professional, just, we're better than you kind of environment.
Mm-hmm.
We are all human, and trainees and current trainees aren't some superhumans who, just, I don't know, had 1 or 2 applications and that's it, we were successful. Some people, actually had to go through a lot of hard work to
Mm-hmm.
get their place. And, it's just kind of making that message clear and making it more accessible in that
Yes.
extent.
Yes, definitely. And as one of the last topics we can mention is what do you think about managing mental health, because it's a very sensitive topic and it's very important during the application process, because you get rejections, you have to go through a very long period of just what may seem as, I don't know, waste of time sometimes, because you put so much effort and time into an application
For sure.
and you get rejected. So it's very tough. Yeah. So how did you get through that period?
Yeah, so essentially, I completely relate to everything you said. So, you get feelings of inadequacy. I think, the big term for it right now is imposter syndrome, where I'd be sat in an assessment center and I'll just be thinking, how in hell am I going to compare to this Oxford grad, this business owner, this PhD person? Like, this person got doctor in front of their name, and, I have nothing. Like, what am I going to do? How can I provide anything to this firm? And essentially, also as essentially kind of turning those rejections and those kind of doubts, what really helped me was firstly religion. So I'm a Sikh, and that kind of my religion kind of teaches that you can trust the process. What happens in life is the way it's supposed to be. So for me, it was very much like I didn't have to be a warrior in that sense. Like, I could essentially trust the process, and if I worked hard, I would get there. So that helped a lot in terms of just taking my mind off things and just stepping back. And also exercise really helps me, because especially when you're at the gym, you're just pushing yourself to a limit, and you want to self-improve. And also, if you work hard at gym, you will see the results physically as well, and mentally. So it was really kind of nice to see that when I exercised, it was a good lesson of, if you work hard, you will get that result that you want. And also kind of confiding in friends and family really helped as well. Like, when I talked to my dad, he's the one who told me rejections are redirections. And I think that's a quote I generally just live by now. Like, honestly, if one door closes, another one opens. And that really helped me with dealing with rejections as well. And in terms of imposter syndrome, self-affirmations really helps. So in an assessment center, if I felt feelings of inadequacy, for example, I'll just tell myself that I had every reason to be there just like everyone else. And that really helps me in terms of, the firm has seen something special in me. There's a reason why I'm here. So, there's no point comparing yourself to other people. And those self-affirmations really helped in building my confidence in the interviews as well, because in my feedback, they would tell me you come across as a very confident individual. Inside, I'm absolutely bricking it. I'm not, I'm not like confident on the inside, but it's nice to be able to portray that confidence and not be worrying about the performance of other people when you're in the interview. You're just kind of focusing on yourself and believing in yourself.
We all have our journey and our timing, and
exactly. And I think it just goes to show the journey, like the average age of a trainee solicitor is around 26, 27. And I don't think that's emphasized enough, because there is such a rush after university, like get a VAC scheme when you graduate, get a training contract when you graduate. And that's absolutely, not the accurate picture at all. A lot of people are career changers, and, it's, everyone finds their own path, essentially.
Yeah. Guys, I'm 27 and I didn't get a training contract yet, so don't worry. We will get there.
You will for sure. You will for sure.
And how many applications did you send before actually obtaining the offer, the final offer?
Oh my God, I think I sent around 45 in the space of a year.
Wow.
So that was including those last minute applications. And yeah, I think the applications that I'd, actually fully focused on, and when I'd perfected my technique, it was around 20, 30 maybe. But, there's a few strays at the start where it was just completely just last minute, copy paste everything, Control C, Control V. Yeah. There we go. And unsurprisingly, I got rejected straight away.
Wow. So, and then finally you got the offer. So returning to the beginning of our our discussion, what happened?
So I'd finished work. I was a paralegal at the time, and I was just finishing work. I was on the train, got onto the train station, and I get a call and I pick it up, and it's the woman from Womble, Dickinson. Her name's Joanne, from grad recruitment, and she basically said, we're really happy to offer you the training contract. And honestly, I was just silent at first because I was choking up so much.
Wow.
And then I think I just kind of burst into tears, laughing and crying at the same time. Everyone's looking at me on the train, and this is rush hour at 5:30, so you can just imagine how packed the train was. I was just, I looked like a right mess. And I didn't really speak much to her on the phone because I actually couldn't speak. But she said, I'll give you your time to kind of, get used to the news and stuff like that. She was very much used to it. I think she gets this a lot. And then I tried to call my mum, and I couldn't even call her because I was crying. So I had to text her that I got a TC because I just couldn't say it. But yeah, no, it was a very nice
moment.
occasion. And I got home and then ate loads of food, and it was a great celebration. Yeah, it was nice. It was very nice.
Yeah.
I think in that moment you just feel like it's all worth it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And after so many applications, so much work
Yeah, I think it just goes to show that practice. Really. Yeah, no, I think it just goes to show that practice makes perfect. In that way. And I do think that everyone can get a TC. And I think people also don't realize that a training contract isn't the only route to become a solicitor. There's a Silex route. There's loads of agencies out there that are providing different routes. And the SQ is only one way in which they're changing the route to become a solicitor as well. So, if you are struggling by the training contract route, it isn't your only route to go down, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, especially with the SQE, there will be more opportunities also from for example, underrepresented backgrounds, which is a topic that we will talk about in one of the next lives with another person.
Yeah,
so
look forward to hearing that.
Yeah, it will be very interesting. And so I think that's everything. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask them. And Sim, if you have anything else to add or any tips in particular, or
I think I've pretty much said everything I need to say in terms of applications. It's literally about tailoring your application, giving specific examples, spelling, grammar, names of the firm need to be correct.
Yeah, definitely.
That needs to be on top notch, because if not, then all your hard work will technically just go in straight into the bin. For example, if you've got a couple typos in there, you spelled the name of the firm wrong.
Yeah.
So that's all very important.
Yeah.
I think those are like my last minute application tips.
Yeah, I would like to thank Aksa, who is saying thank you for this live.
Aww.
And also Rahul Kumar, who says that you're very active on Instagram and your blog. So yeah,
thank you.
Very helpful.
Thank you both. Thank you. Oh, my heart is full.
Thanks everyone, and that's
you.
all for today. And see you for the next live. Thank you, guys.